And then,
It's included. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, everybody, let me grab a. Yeah, wait, somebody wanted to speak before me. Sorry. Sorry. Jumping the gun.
Yeah.
You have an opening act.
Yeah. Dan wants to couple opening remarks. And
Hi, everybody.
Matt, you want to do some jumping jacks, loosen up?
No, sir. I play college football. I haven't had enough of that.
Okay, we're going to help you out.
yeah.
I could still do them. I just chose not to do
Not
them.
as high.
Right.
Yeah. I just want to say, the first time we enjoy the flexibility.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
Oh, and Laura wants to.
This is the dance. This is the box. Dance.
I want to thank everybody for coming out this evening. This is the first of our regular monthly meetings. We're going to be meeting here for the foreseeable future, as long as the library will have us. Our meetings are always the fourth Wednesday of each month. If you would like to be put on our email list, you can see our co-director, Michelle George. If you're not already on it, she can take down the information. And then if we have any changes or any updates or, interesting stuff that we have going on, you'll be able to get that in the form of an email. For those of you that do not know me, my name is Daniel Hegman. I'm the founder and director of the Butler Organization for Research of the Unexplained. And been doing it a long time. My primary interest in the beginning was UFOs. I've had multiple experiences, multiple sightings in my lifetime. And of course, because of my involvement with that, it's led to other facets. And now I'm interested and we investigate every facet of the paranormal. And I could talk forever, but I'm not going to do that because we have a few other people that need to make announcements. Michelle, if you'd like to come up and make your announcement, and then Laura, and then Suzanne, you can make yours.
Okay, there's some very good books out here from back here. He's a paranormal author and researcher, and I've done a few paranormal conferences with him. And they're free. He just wants you guys to read some of his stuff. Great stories in here. There's a couple out here. I know somebody already took them, so he just wanted to share that with you guys if any of you guys want them.
Got him.
Okay. I'm Michelle George, and I'm the one that sends out the email announcements for our paranormal meetings on the fourth Wednesday of the month, and I send it out generally on a Monday before the Wednesday as a last minute reminder. And if you would like to be added to that, see me after Matt's presentation, and I will get you on our emailing list. It's not anything formal. We're not a formal organization, but just to keep you abreast of when our meetings and where they're going to be and when we have special guests like we are tonight. Okay, and Laura?
Also, if in the event you have to go out for any reason, the door, you can go out, but you won't be able to come back in unless you somehow get a hold of one of us to let you know. Okay. The library staff can let you back in, but the door will be locked if you try to come back in.
Hi, I'm Laura Tellman. I also have a paranormal metaphysical group in Youngstown, Ohio. And we meet the third Tuesday of every month at 6 o'clock in the Denny's on Belmont Avenue. And if you want to be on the email list to find out who's speaking, we do have a speaker every month. In March, we have Rainbow Eagle, who is a Native American, and he's going to talk about what the Native Americans know about time travel. So that should be pretty interesting. So we have really different topics. We're kind of associated with the Coast to Coast AM. Does anybody ever hear that radio show with Art Bell or George Norrie? We have similar guests. So. And if you want to be on the email list, let me know. I'll write it down. And yeah, thank you.
Also, I'm going to pass this around. It's a donation for our guest speaker, so if you want to give, that's fine. If you've already given, of course, you know your donations in here. No need to do it again, but we truly appreciate it if you donate something. Thank you.
I already
At this time, where's Matt? I would like to introduce Matt Emmy.
Emch.
Okay.
Tenders of, it's spelled EMCH, tenders of T.
He originally spoke at Laura's meeting over in Youngstown, and a few of us from the Butler group went over to hear him speak. And I have never met and had a presentation done as thoroughly and as exciting as this man here gives. And I hope you people enjoy it as much as we did. It's like, I was at the edge of my seat, and you just brought all of the emotion that you felt whenever that originally happened to you. So enjoy.
Guys, thank you for having me. I'm going to move back here. So I'm in the camera's view too. So some of my loyal people at the 412 who are watching, hello everybody.
Oh, Matt is live streaming it to his YouTube group, which is called Planet 412. So he said they're all set up. They're waiting for you to start.
It started. They're already watching.
They're watching. Okay.
Yeah, it's a different kind of live stream. Normally I'm involved, going back and forth. They get to see what's going on tonight. Like she said, my name is Matt Emch. I grew up in Youngstown, Ohio, on the north side, actually. I went to St. Edward's Junior High from preschool, then to elementary, then to junior high. I went to Ursuline High School, got I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Durr. I don't use these very much, but I'm happy to use it. Can I borrow this and bring it home so that I can use it with my wife? I would yell to her, and she would not be happy. So, starting over, my name is Matt Emch. I grew up in Youngstown, Ohio. I went to St. Ed's Junior High before high school, but then before that, preschool and elementary, all Catholic through high school. And then I got a full scholarship to play for Jim Tressel at Youngstown State University, 1991 through 1994, the good years. So we went to 4 straight. We won 3 out of 4. We lost 1 by a field goal with 17 seconds, and I don't wear that ring ever. So the great thing about 1992, and I'll get beyond the personal stuff, guys, but I have to say it, is I wouldn't have my family if I didn't turn down a full scholarship to Ohio State. My dad was a very big part of my decision-making process. John Cooper was not in our plans. So I turned it down. A lot of people I'm friends with still to this day are like, what would you do that for? Well, multiple reasons. I was coached by one of the greatest football coaches in history in Jim Tressel. I went to 4 straight national championships. Most importantly, I have my family from doing that because I met my wife, who was a majorette for the band. And in 1992, she caught my eye and vice versa. And we wouldn't have my daughter. We wouldn't have had the dogs we've had, the dog we have now, Hadley. So it's very important to me that I mention that. Going back in time to St. Ed's Junior High, in 1986 was the year that this event occurred. And I don't call this a story. Anybody that knows me knows that I call it an experience, and that's what I hold, everybody to. On Planet 412, I started that after I'd had some other events take place in my life, which I'll discuss later. But, saying this real quick, the 412 is a very special YouTube channel. It marks itself to stand amongst different groupings there. It's not like all the others. There's very few that are like mine. And the reason I say that is because we are a very tight-knit, loving, family in a place where usually there's nothing but, people making fun of one another. You got trolls everywhere. People go to certain, my genre, let's be honest, it's not your average everyday genre on my channel. So you can imagine sometimes on other channels how vicious things get and how people can give everything from inside of them, like I did, tell about an experience that changed their life forever, something that they were going to take to their grave, and they decide to do it. And some of these other channels, and then this person never speaks again about that stuff. Well, on my channel, you can guarantee that you can come there, you will be accepted, you will never be made fun of, you will never be trolled. Those type of people, they're gone. They come to my channel, I see it, my mods see it, BJ, Kel, and Josie. Josie, by the way, is one of my mods. Her sister is in a coma today. We were thinking about you, Josie. I'm so sorry. We're just a tight-knit family over there. And it's not cheesy, it's not anything like that. We just are close, it's just a place that people that have had experiences unlike anyone else can come and be sure that you're accepted there. Now, does that mean that we're all going to go believe every single thing we hear? No. I am very hard to convince because of what occurred with me when I was 14 years old. So that, moving past that right there, in 1986, I had just gotten out of grade school, and it was summertime vacation, and for all of you, that's when you go buck wild. But for you males in here, how you get when you got let loose out of school. It was all out, and we would go everywhere in Youngstown. We would go, to my parents' dismay, from one end of the town to the other and past. I mean, we would ride our bikes places where it would take us hours to get home. During that time, Youngstown was not the safest place. It was very dangerous. In fact, it had the moniker of Murder Town, USA during my time in the latter parts of St. Edwards and into Earthland High School. And I mean, you turned on the national news and they talk about another murder in Youngstown, Ohio, Murder Town, USA. But it was true. And, it really affected the way, obviously, parents let their kids do things, or their kids would go to that extra effort of not letting their parents know exactly where they were going to be going. So we frequented a lot of places that were just not the norm. One of which was the steel mills down in at the bottom of Briar Hill on the north side of Youngstown, is where you could get that great look. Any of you guys that are old enough to remember going down Briar Hill before they changed it into, the whatever it is now, it's part of the highway and exchange. You either come over the bridge from the west side or from Boardman, and you have the Cleveland and Pittsburgh exits there, and you come down the hill and you get the view of all that dilapidated, rusting, hulking, things over there. And we would go over there because the day and night that this occurred, there were four of us. A lot of times there were more than four, but this was a very close group of us. My best friend, another one of my very close friends, and then another one of my extremely close friends, when I'm not naming them for family reasons of their families. They ever just choose to say, yes, you can, say that, I'll do it. I will never do my family wrong, and they're all my family, especially after what occurred, and especially after the fact that two of them are no longer here, and I'll explain to you guys why they're no longer here, and it's connected to this experience. So it was always cool going down Briar Hill, and and we'd make a left there, and that would take us to our buddy's house. And he lived literally right across the street from the steel mill. So you sat on his porch, you could see everything. We would cross when it was safe, obviously. We'd cross 422. You know, there's a chain link fence that was across the street from his house. We'd jump that, run across all those lanes that are still there to this day. And we would hop on the other side, and it would roughly take us about a half an hour to get where we would go, which was the Jeanette blast furnace area. That building was exactly the building that this experience happened in, and where we literally almost lost our lives. We didn't, thank God. Most, altering thing that happened was our lives were completely changed forever. I mean, reality shattered that night, and a lot of different avenues happened with the group of me and my friends. We would go down there, and there were multiple types of things that we had to watch out for. Number one, most dangerous, bar none, no questions asked, wild dogs. If anybody knows about wild dogs in city areas, if you lived in Cleveland or anywhere that you get a better view because it's just a bigger city, you go to Akron and parts of Akron or Toledo, unfortunately, and those dilapidated parts not many people live. You see these gangs of wild dogs, which are just, mutts that you'd see in your house or somebody's yard, but they grew up with each other, depending on each other, and they will take your hand off if you go up there to feed them. They will kill human beings and have. There were two, for sure, homeless individuals that were supposedly killed by a pack of wild dogs that we would see regularly down there. There's questions from the powers that be that one of them actually lost his life from what I'm going to tell you about, chased us around that fateful night. So we would always be very leery about, where we were. We'd be watching everywhere. We'd want to see where those dogs were. If you heard them within earshot, you needed to find a place to get up and where they couldn't get. We brought weapons down there. And, excuse my language, shit, it was a freaking, it was the late 80s in Youngstown. And for those of you that don't know how the yo was back then, it was a bad place, as I was saying before. And, that night we had pathetic weaponry. Let's just put it that way. My one buddy had a 25 caliber that literally made its way through each of our hands through the years. That would, after one shot, firing pin would pop out, and someone would ask me, because I knew about how to put guns back together. I'm not a gun freak, but I believe in that amendment. I definitely have weapons to protect my home, but it's for protection, and learn how to break a gun down, and everyone asks you to fix one if it falls apart. Well, this thing fell apart constantly. Thank God we didn't ever need to depend on this 25 caliber, because we wouldn't have lived through it. And there was a 22 little pistol my buddy had, and then I'm lucky I'm alive because my dad never, bless him, my dad never figured this out. I took a 38 from Dad's closet that, number one, Dad didn't like guns. He was a Boy Scout that grew up in an era where you could have your screen doors unlocked at night, which is mind-blowing that was the time. And he had this thing in the back of his closet, hidden in a cowboy boot, where there was only one cowboy boot. You can't do that with me and my younger brother. We were sleuths. We figured everything out because my parents kept us in the house all night or all day because of whatever's going on. We're going to search every inch of that house, and we found that gun. And thank God nothing bad ever happened. But I took it down there just for protection. We never killed anything. We never shot at animals. We never did anything with it. And the night that that happened, we never even thought of using them because of what was so unbelievable that occurred. Glad we didn't. More than likely, we would. I would not be here talking to you because those wouldn't have done anything. So taking it to that night, we would go to this Jeanette blast furnace, and there is actually a couple videos on YouTube that show the Jeanette blast furnace, and it was getting knocked down in the video. I think it was 1993 or something, or six, but you can see what it kind of looked like. So we'd go there, and it had 4 floors, and you could walk to the center of every floor, and in the middle of that floor on each level, there was a square cutout with a half concrete wall that would come up about, here on normal sized people. You could walk and you could look down, depending what floor. You could look down, you could look up. We would build fires in that area because the flames could go all the way high. And that night, my buddy, decided to build the ultimate fire that, thank God, the Youngstown police didn't come that night because it was the biggest we'd ever had. He found a can of oil or something, and we had it going good, and he just walks up, and he had to know my best friend. He wasn't always there. And he was inches from it. And he's like, "Hey, look what I found." And woof, and this thing, I mean, the flames went so high. It was, I'm glad we didn't get caught. We have this fire going, and I'm trying to think if I've left anything out up to that point. Oh, sorry. Let me backtrack real quick. I won't spend a lot of time on it. Other dangers for down there. Drug dealers during that time. I mean, they were all over, and they would get rid of bodies. They would hide drugs down there. We would watch them hide drugs and stuff. We saw a couple of times. They had like a white sheet that looked like it was the size of a body. We didn't go. I mean, obviously, we didn't want to end up dead too. We really made sure that we hid and waited till they were gone, and we didn't go near it because we were afraid they'd come back or somebody was there. We knew where they'd hide, certain ones where they'd hide their fun stuff. And then there would be, I mean, just like a movie, guys. I mean, for real, you can ask, if you know people that lived down there and know people that knew about the mob. Youngstown, Ohio has always been huge with the mob. It's always been connected. And those of you that aren't sure about that, trust me, do your homework. And you have Anthony Naples, who blew up in his driveway. I believe they had a car bomb that blew him up.
Who was the guy that owned the 49ers?
Oh, that's Eddie DeBarlo. Yeah. So
Built the big mall.
yeah, the Cafaros built a mall in Youngstown, and I'm not saying anything else. They knew it. They knew a few people. I'm friends with some of the Cafaros. I'm not saying anything. Also, anybody catches, I have a chipped tooth. I had an accident about a week or two ago, so excuse the chipped tooth. It's not always like that. Yeah, I'm not going to say anything else about the Cafaros. Everybody's connected in some form or fashion, and Naples was always very nice if kids came through his neighborhood. He actually lived right next to my great uncle, and we were playing in my great uncle's yard one day, and we ended up in his yard. Very manicured, very nice, and he had guards. And these guys, massive guy, looked like they played, line for the Steelers. And they came over and they were not nice to us. And they were like, "You guys got to get out of here, leave you. We pay to get this taken." And Mr. Naples came out and he chewed them out, and he fed us and was super nice. And we made sure it wasn't an everyday thing, and we knew what was going on. So those two things, aside from the wild dogs, were things you had to look out for, and they were real dangers, guys. I mean, legit. So this night we're there. It was night for sure. It was after 8 when everything started to happen, and then after 9 is when the craziness really started to occur. We were inside, and I always say this. I'm going to say a lot of things. If those of you who've heard my interviews before, you're going to hear things that I always say, because it's what happened. It's what I was feeling and what I saw, and I'm not going to embellish and change things. It's the way it was. I think that's why people have resonated with me giving this account, because I'm not sitting here umming and ahhing and, oh, let me think of something. Oh, yeah, that sounds good. Let me do that too. Everything that I tell you is up to you to decide if you believe me. I never hate on anybody if they don't believe me, but it really happened. And it's up to you guys to decide if you want to, go along. And I feel the same way about anybody telling me their experiences as well. So, when you're having a fire and you're just kind of staring at it, it kind of just makes you zone out. I know all of you have been there before. You're smoking a cigar or something else, and you're staring at the fire, and you just kind of zone out. And we were doing that, and we were young. We weren't drinking. We weren't doing drugs. People have put comments, oh, you guys were doing acid. We were kids. We were, keep it down. Is it too loud? This is too loud. Oh, okay, sorry. I misunderstood somebody back there. So we were not doing anything wrong. And then all of a sudden, it just felt like everything shifted. It's just weird. And we heard barking. And we knew it was the wild dogs, and they were coming our way, and we weren't worried about it because we were in the building that we always went in. It didn't have stairs. One of the reasons why we liked the Jeanette Blast Furnace, the stairs had broken apart over the years. Nobody taking care of them, misuse, non-use. So if they were interested in us, which was normally always the case, they would sit there, their paws would be on the, barking at us. They'd look, man, we'd always say, geez, oh man, could you imagine what they would do if they ever got their teeth wrapped around our leg? They really wanted to hurt us. And they did not pay attention to us whatsoever. It was the first time this ever happened. They ran right by us. They didn't even look at us. And we're standing on the outside. So just to give you an idea of what this building was like, again, 4 floors, but on the first floor, there were open sides. All 4 sides, north, south, east, and west, were huge, opened, just walls. And we figured it was because they were smelting in there, easier for them to get stuff in and out. Make something, get it on the train, take it out. And there was a train track right outside the building, and we never really knew what these were. I always said they looked like gladiator shields, the kind that you hold it and they kind of bend back towards you. Well, I've had a number of people reach out to me since I talked about it, and they said they believe they're smelting shields. Anybody that's worked steel in here before? No? Definitely a rare thing for that to occur these days. They had 2 different gentlemen who said that they worked steel, and they said, yeah, that's like a smelting shield. You'll put it in like a kind of apparatus that will hold it, so it doesn't fall away, and it protects your legs and everything from the hot steel coming, molten steel hitting. And we actually took these things, and they were roughly 4 feet high, I'd say. They were heavy, and it took a couple of us to do what we did with them. We actually lined up, however many it took, on each side, and made a first layer of wall. And then we took it took two of the ones on the first level to, put another one on so it would sit in between two. And it took two of us to put them up there, and we got it as high as we could, which was only about, two. I don't think we went past two. I think it was just two. But above those was a very wide open part of the wall, so somebody could just see in. And, if there was a fire going in there, you're definitely going to see it. But at least for us, we felt much more secure. People couldn't exactly see what anybody was doing in there unless you got high enough to look in or literally walked in. And there was like a concrete outcropping on the outside of the building. And we would go out and we'd stand there and look at whatever's going on. Well, that night again, the dogs ran by us. And I remember we all kind of were like, that was, very shocking that not one. And they flew past and ran over the railroad tracks that was maybe 5 to 7 feet from the building to, so if we're looking out, it was right in front of us, and they ran over that. And just beyond that was a gigantic, huge pile of coke, which is like, a smelting material in the steel industry. Looks like gravel. And it was very high, 25 feet, maybe at the 15 feet at the least. And it went as far as we could see that way, and it went as far as we could see that way. And these dogs ran up and over, and within seconds we heard biting, fighting, yelping, dogs screaming, and we thought immediately, I thought, well, shit, what the hell are they fighting with each other for? They just ran over there. A couple seconds more, and you started to realize that there was something else over that hill that was causing this yelping to go. And it was much deeper, much louder. And, you start hearing the yelping louder and louder. And all of a sudden, and this is my sweating starting. I always have a sweat towel because when I get to this part, I start getting nervous. I can't help it. So I apologize. After this, we start to notice, things in the sky, basically. And the first one was a dog that was literally flying backwards. So its tail was facing us, and it came over this pile. So obviously somebody or something threw this thing, and it had its behind facing us, and it hit the ground, and not far from us. Almost like I was like, did somebody throw that at us? Which it didn't. Just happened to land there. The dog hit the ground, yelped, jumped up, and limped away. Not long after that, another dog comes, and this dog this time, its behind is facing our direction, but its feet are up this way, so it's turned over, and it's flying towards us. It actually didn't make the top of that pile. It hit the top of that pile, and the material just went everywhere. It just exploded when the dog hit it, and the dog hit the ground, and you saw just a bunch of blood. And I'm heartbroken now. I'm a huge dog lover. I always was very upset about what I saw, and the dog had a flaying down its side, like somebody had taken a fillet knife or something and cut it, and you could see its ribs, you could see muscle and things like that. It was bleeding everywhere, and it got up and it crawled kind of away where we couldn't see it. And I have to believe, unless somebody helped the thing, and unfortunately it couldn't have made it. And I was so upset about it. I just was like, oh my God, that poor dog. Well, I didn't have much longer to feel bad, because the dogs started to jet. They were gone, and they took off. And we watched them go the way that they had came, and they were leaving smoke trails, boy. Well, as I'm watching it, and two other buddies of mine are watching these dogs go the way we came, one of my buddies goes, "Hey, what is that? What is that, guys? What is that?" And we all kind of simultaneously looked to our right, and there was just non-reality was starting to set in there, and there was the biggest animal I've ever seen in my life. Imagine, so we didn't have the internet then. We didn't have Google and cell phones, and it was pretty sad, right? And we had to look stuff up, in a dictionary or at a library or something. And there were computers, obviously. You could look stuff up there, but it wasn't as easy as it is now. And we had looked up after this event, and I just want to say this now because I wanted to sink into with you guys about how large this thing was. And it wasn't mistaken size from like me, and I just made them believe. There were four of us. And it took us a while before we agreed on things together. Like we were actually pretty good about the situation, about going over events and things, because you had something occur that, number one, you hear a lot of experiences, supposed experiences or stories being talked about on YouTube these days, and there's a lot of them. Let me tell you something, guys. There are not that many dogmen running around everywhere that you hear all of these events. It's just not. People would see them. It's a rare occurrence. I'm not saying all of them are lying. I'm just saying there is a large group that just maybe saw something they thought was a dog man, or So the point I'm getting at is it's rare, and other people do see them, but there's just so many of them now. It's just like, oh, come on. There's no way it would be on the news if there were that many. So for those of you that have had events, seeing one, have friends or family that really saw one or had something occur that maybe they tried to hurt your family, that's a rare experience, and I am glad for one reason it happened, because it opened my mind's eye that there are things out there that we were taught can in no way, shape, or form exist, but they do. They really do. And that day and night, my reality shattered for life. So did my other three buddies. And when it started to really shatter is as we're watching this gigantic animal that was the size of we looked up, basically a polar bear. Some of you can scoff at that. I don't hate on you for that, but trust me when I tell you, it was every bit as big as some of those pictures you see. Now, I love that there's pictures of actual polar bears out there that are just so big, it's hard to wrap your mind around, because that proves what I'm saying is, this thing was so big, it was like one of those, and it just wasn't, going through your head the right way. You just couldn't make sense that there's a creature that big that also is something that mythology supposedly just, made up, that doesn't exist. Well, if these gigantic machines of just predator mass and horrible events that take place when they find a human, if those exist, these things definitely do, because I've seen one and I've seen the size. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Google some of the largest pictures of those animals ever found, and you will be like, whoa, there's no way that's real. So this thing's watching these dogs run away, and I'm stuck on it, and I'm immediately scared, because if this thing that hadn't noticed us yet notices us, we're going to be done quick. And it hadn't, and it watches these dogs run away, and it did something that I always say this too. You know, some people might think it's silly that I'm mentioning it. Some people might find it amusing. None of us laughed. It lifted its leg and it let us know, number one, it was a male. He was a proud male too. And he was. And it was scary because when he started to mark territory, is what he did, the stream from this thing was so strong that it was literally like watching a hose go off, and it hit this material below, and it was just like, and these pieces of the coke are flying in the air, and I'm sitting there like, oh my God, we're going to be killed. This thing is doing its business, and it's so freaky, it's scaring the hell out of me. So right then, as we're like, you know, I'm thinking, I'm going to say to these guys, let's get out, let's get out. My buddy who had noticed it first to my left trips over himself, or however he did, because he was walking backwards, and falls into that makeshift metal gladiator shield wall that we made. And if you've ever heard metal on concrete, you know how loud it is. And it was just like, squeak, screech. And I was just like, ooh. And this thing snaps its head at us, and it showed shock. It did not know we were there. And it was immediately interested in us. And it almost did a double take. It was like, you know, and it looked at us, and then all of a sudden it was giving, you know, a predator type of personality off. And it started to growl and then roared at us. And if you've heard some of the accounts of people being roared at by cryptids, be it Sasquatch, be it Dogman, lions do it. Natural animals on Earth do it. Whales do it. It's called, it's infrasound. And what it does, guys, if you don't know, is it's such a low frequency, we can't hear the low one with our own ears. You can hear the basic one, but the infrasound actually starts to cause discombobulation in whatever the prey is, a person, a deer, gazelle, whatever. It causes the blood inside of that animal to, shake and move. It causes eyeballs to vibrate. It causes, organs to also vibrate and move. And what that does is, again, it discombobulates the prey and makes it much easier for it to, dispatch whatever it's going after. Well, it roared at us, and I've never to this day heard anything like it before. Disappointingly, I've listened to people who have supposedly got, audio recordings of Dogman, and I've never to this day heard what we heard. I'm waiting for it though. And I started to drop over, and I had my hands on my knees like this. And I remember looking up and forcing my head to be up, because I did not want to take my eyes off of this thing. I didn't want to all of a sudden be down and, gagging or whatever. And all of a sudden I start to put my head up and it steps right between my feet. You know what I mean? So I'm keeping an eye on this thing, and my other bud, my best friend who's right here, is doing almost the same thing I'm doing, but the two on each end, they are down completely. My one buddy who saw it first is gagging, saying he's going to throw up. He can't stand up. The other one saying he's going to pass out. And then this thing starts to come towards us, and in the process that's coming toward us, it stands up on two legs from four. And I shit you not, excuse my language, it stood on two legs. It didn't stand like a dog getting a treat where it's all gangly and, give me my milk bone or whatever. Begging strip, sorry, my Hadley would be pissed, better give me a begging strip. And it was every bit as impressive and gigantic on 2 legs as it was on 4, and it was just massive. It was all black. In fact, the black was so dark, I'll never forget it as long as I live. And you hear this about some cryptids out there. You hear this about shadow people being seen in people's homes. That the darkness that they are giving off is darker than the night behind them, the darkness in the basement they're in, wherever. I've never seen anything like the darkness that this thing came off. It had the night sky behind it. When it stood up, it started to stand up and then finished standing up on that coke pile, starting to come off of it. And the night sky behind it looked like it was like it wasn't even nighttime. And this thing started to come after us, and I hope I'm not leaving anything out from here, but what occurred was we just started kind of forcing ourselves to get up. I remember following in some of my buddies, and we weren't over what had occurred to us with this, whatever it did to us, this roar. I mean, we're falling over each other, we're tripping. We ended up going to the 3rd floor. Don't know why. We just went there, and it stayed outside. We went up to the 3rd floor. We went to that middle area that the floor was cut out, and we were at the far, so it would have been like the far wall of that cutout. And we had our backs at first to where the opening of the building was. And my buddy, who had noticed at first that, threw us under the bus and let it know it was there, was losing his what. I gotta get out of here. What is it? Oh my God, we gotta leave. I want my parents. We gotta go. We have to leave the things in. What is it? We're screaming, though, guys, screaming, losing it. And I remember we started yelling at him about quiet, because at the moment this thing had not come in the building. But if you keep screaming like that, you're only going to tempt this thing to come in. Shut up. And he's not shutting up. And I remember where I was standing was just the perfect area for how I grabbed him. I didn't do this on purpose. It just worked out that way. I grabbed him to pull him to me, but I ended up being completely, when it was said and done, behind him. And I had grabbed him so hard, because I've always been a decent sized guy. Even when I was young, I ended up realizing I had grabbed him and I was holding him and his feet were dangling. And I had my hand over his mouth so he couldn't breathe. And he's, starting to show signs that he needs to breathe. And I just said, "Are you going to be quiet? If you're quiet, I'll let you go." And my other 2 buddies are in front of him. And they're like, "Just be quiet, he'll let you go." And he's like, trying to breathe. I finally let him go. And just as he takes the deepest breath, it's like out of a movie, just thump, boom, loud scratch noise, and we all froze. Because we knew what that meant. We knew that this thing was coming in the building. And we were horrified, because where we were on the 3rd floor, you have to understand, so where we were on the 3rd floor, you could go down the way we came. This thing was coming in, by the way. There was also a fire escape. It was on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th floors, but once you went outside on the 3rd floor we were on, and you took a peek, the stairs that could have gotten us to the ground level were no longer there. It was all like in a big pile of just rusted, jagged, dilapidated stairs, and nobody took care of for years, and it just ended up falling from gravity. There was a staircase from the 3rd floor to the 4th floor. It didn't look safe. One of my buddies does use it at one point in this experience, and he's lucky he didn't end up on ground level impaled, because I would have never taken those stairs. And then there was, from where we were, you could go up another staircase, and then you'd be on the fourth floor. And then there was also a tiny little utility kind of staircase that would take you out to the roof. No way off the roof, you're not Superman. So we are very nervous at this point, obviously, and we hear the thump and the scratch, and we realize it's coming in, and we start to look, and this thing comes and starts weaving its way inside the first floor, and it looks like, from my point of view, it looked like a black snake at first, a giant black snake, or just like it was made of oil. It was just the way it moved. It was just so smooth and just abnormal, supernatural, the way it even moved. And it was gigundous. And we had the fear of God in us. We were all pale. We were all horrified. And I literally started to think, this is the night I'm going to die, because there's no way out. Well, we're watching this thing, and we started to notice something very clear that I didn't mention outside. This thing had certain things about it, supernatural kinds of I don't want to say abilities, just traits that it had that set it, out there. And the number one thing I'll always remember was its eyes. It had literally, and I'm sure if you've been, I know you have been studying the Dogman phenomena. There is one thing that is a constant, regular. It is glowing eyes that people see regularly on these beings. A lot of times when you see black ones, you'll always, or almost always, hear amber, orange, yellowish color eyes. This thing had the brightest orange amber eyes ever, and they were so bright that, and I always say this, so bright it seemed like there was a power source behind its eyes that lit them up. And this wasn't eye shine, guys. This was not eye shine, because when it came in the building and its shadow was thrown on the far wall from the fire, which was giant, when it got to the dark part of this one wall, and it went like this, it just moved its head. It didn't look at the wall, but it just so happened its eyes moved along. It lit the wall up with that color as it turned its head. And it was like watching, a little bit dimmer, like car headlights that had just went across this wall. And it's walking across the first floor, and it knew we were there. And excuse me for a second. I need a drink. My mouth is getting dry. So as it's walking across the first floor, it's sniffing in the air. Every so often it gives a big, deep smell. It's trying to smell us. Its ears are perked above its head, and they're cupping. So they're actually cupping and turning. And you see Dobermans will do that. You see German Shepherds' ears will they'll cup up and they'll kind of move. That's what it was doing. And we had a good view from up there, and it was black as black, except when you were looking down on it, from the base of its neck all the way down to its tail, it had a white stripe that went all the way down. And it was bright, but it didn't have long hair. You hear some people say, the one that I saw, it had real long, shaggy hair, had a big, mane and all. This sucker looked like somebody was grooming it. It was completely more like cleanish kind of looking. Its hair was short. I'd say maybe at the longest like that. It did not have really much of any type of mane. Its hair was when you got to the tail, I think this kind of described that the most. Its tail was real thick and real long, and it looked exactly like just like a puma or a big black cat's tail. You know how the panther's tails look? They're not like bushy. That's what this thing's tail looked like. When it walked, I'll always remember like the shoulder blades, poking up like a big cat. And it had some other supernatural things happen that really freaked us out. Um, it walked near the fire. Now you have to understand, like I said already, my buddy made ridiculous, touches to the fire, which made it very large, very hot. You couldn't get close to this thing. This thing got close to the fire within a couple feet, and it didn't care whatsoever of any heat source or anything. I found that mind blowing. And then it did something. Sorry. Now I'm getting nervous. It did something that freaked us out was when it got real close to the fire, and the movie Predator had not been out, by the way. It does come out that summer, but we saw it after, and what we saw really affected us. It walked by the fire, and from me and my one buddy's point of view, you could see its left arm. It lifted, and then it touched, and then you could see through it. And it only happened for 2 to 3 seconds. You could see the fire through it. It looked just like the Predator thing that you see in the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. And then it was over. It just was super fast. And I was like, oh my God, did you see that? We saw it. Another characteristic that this thing had was huge hands. Now, also its arms and shoulders were real long. Its hands actually went past the knees, and the tips of its fingers, literally, it could scratch its ankle, were that long. And it had raccoon looking hands. They were huge. They were giant raccoon hands, exactly like raccoon hands. I did not see the talons, my buddy called them. They were at a different, two of my other two buddies were at a different angle. They said they saw just huge black, and he said talons. I didn't see the talons. I was looking at other things. And this thing was muscle, top to bottom. It was the perfect predator. Perfect. It was created for one thing, you could tell, be it God or whoever made this thing. It was made for one thing, and that was to kill. And you could tell its teeth were huge. And the most disturbing part of when this thing came in the building and it was looking around and trying to find us was the fact that all of a sudden, not even 15 seconds after it came in the building, I started to pick up on a noise. It was a noise like if it was pouring rain outside, but the rain isn't really getting in, but it has some big drips getting in, some big leaks. And you could hear like the sound of something hitting concrete that was like, rain or something. Well, then we got a good view, and it was salivating. It had huge amounts of just salivation pouring from its mouth. And that didn't start until it started smelling the air. It was looking for us, and it was, in my opinion, salivating because it was either going to eat or it was going to kill and just kill us. And all of a sudden, this thing caught our sense, and it smelled, and it snapped its head, and it looked up at us, and it stood up on two legs again, and it threw it. And I like to say this now because you've seen the movies like superheroes throw themselves like in, a superhero stance. Well, it threw its arms out to its sides, and it was looking up at us, and it roared at us again, and we all kind of covered our ears, and you heard certain loose metal in the building, like almost ring from the vibration through the building. But we did not have that reaction that we had outside. And the only thing we've ever been able to put together of why we didn't have an effect like it happened before was because it was looking up at us from the first floor. We're on the third. We have a big concrete wall in front of us. You have metal and pipes and other stuff. Just think that it was whatever was around us absorbed that infrasound, and none of us had any negative effects other than it made our ears ring and it hurt, and it's looking up at us, and you have to understand, I was trying to hold it together. I had the moment of reality shatter that when that thing stood up for the first time outside, it was years of asking Dad, are monsters real? Is that real, Dad? What about this movie we're watching, and Dad doing everything he can, or Mom tell you that monsters aren't real and werewolves don't exist, and those things are all just fake. It's mythology. It's not real. There's always a truth to mythology. And let me tell you something. I don't care what anybody says. Like I've said it before, I'll repeat it one last time. You cannot believe me. That's your prerogative. It's fine with me. I would have a hard time believing this too if I didn't have the experience. But it really happened. It blew our minds. It changed my life forever. I will never forget it as long as I live. I think about it every day, multiple times a day. I can't go in my house at night, which there are woods behind our house, without being paranoid every night. Ohio is a concealed carry state. I have mine on me every time I get out of the car. One reason and one reason alone, because I am nervous about this thing coming out of the black. This thing changed all of our lives so incredibly. I don't even have the words, and two of my friends are no longer here. And, they made some choices in their lives to try and deal with what happened to us, because everybody's telling us it didn't happen. The powers that be that we ended up seeing later that night, it didn't happen. You're going to tell her, you don't talk about it, you don't. Forcing us, you didn't see it, you didn't. And then not being able to handle it. And my best friend and one of my other best friends started, drinking at a young age, smoking pot. My saving grace was I played football. If I didn't, I don't think I'd be here. And then it moved from them smoking pot and drinking to trying this drug and that drug. And then all of a sudden they were addicted to heroin, and it took their lives. And they're no longer here. And that son of a bitch that came after us that night 100% caused my friends' deaths, because they couldn't handle the fact that even the people that they trusted most in the world, family members, and were telling them, shut up about it, don't talk about it. As far as you're concerned, it didn't happen. If you tell anybody about it, you're going to be put the moniker of crazy. You guys are all going to be the crazies of Youngstown. Matt, you'll never get a scholarship anywhere. You'll never even play at the high school you want to go to, because you guys will be made fun of the rest of your natural born lives. You're having those people that you trust more than anything in the world basically telling you it didn't happen, even though you know it happened and they know it happened. It was messed up, and they couldn't handle it. And it took them a few years. It took them probably, when did they die? My one buddy who overdosed, let me think, I believe the age we were all at was late 30s, I believe. I can find out later for you guys the exact. But it just, got worse and worse for them, and they just couldn't take it anymore. And I remember hearing my one buddy say, I close my eyes every night, and all I can do is see it. I can't stop seeing it. I can't stop hearing that noise it made. I keep thinking it's coming for us. It's going to get us eventually. You know that, right, Matt? It's going to get us. Well, that's not what got him in a way, but it definitely was in charge of the situation and had a hand in my friends dying. So we're staring at this thing down on the first floor, and it literally turns its head and stares at the stairs. I think, and I'll always believe this as long as I live, that it smiled at us. It looked like a smile to me. It looked back, and it almost like a smirk. My other two buddies, two of my friends were not, there wasn't both who passed, but one of them that passed, and another friend who made it. They both said they just think it sneered at us. It was just like an animal. It just looked like it smiled. I have a different opinion. Because after it did that, it stared at us for a second, and then it turned and it jetted for those stairs, and it was on all fours again in a heartbeat, and it started running up those stairs so fast that it was hard to fathom how fast it was. I was watching it, I was like, oh my God, we're going to die. And this is what I was thinking in my head. I 150% started making preparation in my head, as much as a little kid at that age could do, with the fact that my parents will never see me again. I have a funny thing I said. It's like, it wasn't like, my life flashed before my eyes and all that, but, I saw this, and this, and then somebody from the crowd said, your life flashed before your eyes. So yes, it did. And I, in a very fast, amount of time, seconds, thought I'll never see my family again. I'll never see my dog again. I'll never play football. I saw all this stuff real quick. And in that short 3-4 seconds, I was watching this thing come up the stairs, hitting the second floor, crossing the room to get to the other set of stairs on the other side of the room, and then thump, jumping over stairs that were missing. You guys have to understand, there were widowmakers all over this place. Widowmakers meaning giant pieces of concrete and rebar that would just fall. We'd be standing there talking, and it would fall feet from us. That would have hit, and we'd be done. And we'd be up there hopping missing stairs, and we had guardian angels for sure, because they were there that night. And when it hit that second floor, and it all sunk in with everybody at that moment, them too, that we're not getting away from this thing. My two buddies, the one that lived across the street, ran outside and started running up the staircase that I told you he's lucky as hell that he lived through that. And you could hear him running up, and he's screaming, we gotta get out of whatever he said. And then my other buddy, who had been losing his stuff, ran for the main stairs to go up to the fourth floor, and he said he had went out on the roof. Well, me and my best friend were the only two standing there on the third floor. And from me to my computer, so feet from the stairs, meaning so when this thing got to the top of the stairs, the first person that it would encounter would be me. And my best friend was right next to me. And I was frozen. I just couldn't move. I just watched this thing come, and I could feel my eyes getting bigger and bigger as it was coming up the stairs. And then it stopped 4 or 5 feet from me. And it was staring at us, and it was growling and showing its teeth, and it was salivating. And it did a kind of like when somebody that's trying to start a fight with someone else, they're, one of those. It was kind of like that. And then right when this thing, it started rearing up, it started to bend its legs, and it put its head down, and it was looking at me. I knew it was going to jump on me. I will always believe this. just like when I had a near-death experience in 2022, a real one. I died for 97 seconds in 2022. I had my leg amputated, unfortunately. Complications from a surgery. I had Charcot syndrome, it's called. And I had fallen a couple times when I came home after it, in a opening and formed where the sutures were. And I remember I had my wife take me to St. Joe's, and I sat in a waiting room for 5 hours, and no one ever came to get me. And I called my wife and said, "Come get me." I was supposed to be fast tracked. I was told you can't stay home. My nurse had called my surgeon, and they're like, oh my God, you're going to have something really bad happen. You have to go to the hospital. They'll fast track you. You won't. I told her to come get me. After 5 hours, I went out. I was sitting outside of the hospital. Doctors walked by me, and no one ever asked me if I was okay. I could have been bleeding to death right there. She pulled up. I hopped in her car, literally hopped. I had one leg into her car, and we drove, started the drive home, and we were at the light on 422 in Niles, where if you've ever been to Niles, Ohio, there's a Walgreens right there, and across the street from it is a Sunoco, I think. And it's before, if you kept driving through that light, you get to the Eastwood Mall. Well, we're at that light, and we could hear liquid or fluid, like rain or something. It wasn't raining. It was, where is that sound coming from? My wife looked at me, what is that noise? I looked between my legs, and the artery had burst finally in my leg. And it was not boom, 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 boom. It was blood, just I'm trying to hold it in, spraying everywhere in the car, on the roof, on the windshield, on the doors. My wife loses it. Oh my God. Pulls into the gas station right there. They're trying, my 14-year-old daughter was in the back seat too. I'm trying to stop this blood from my life pouring through my fingers, and we're trying to find something to stop it. And there's a woman that works there. She was outside on the phone. She came over and said, "You guys need help. My husband's bleeding. Oh my God, please call an ambulance." Long story short, a doctor had been driving by. He was at the light there. He said something, told him pull in. He pulled in. He was like, "Oh my God, this man's gonna die. We have to get him to the hospital." Whereas the paramedics, the one guy that worked there just so happened to be an ex-combat medic. He was trying to help make a makeshift tourniquet. These people are trying to save my life. I lose consciousness twice. Got whacked pretty hard from my wife. "No, you're not doing that." Whap! And I got popped. And in the third time, I felt it going, and I knew this was it. I had lost over 2 pints of blood, and I felt my life slipping away. And I looked at my wife and daughter, and I said, "I'm sorry, I love you." And I started to close my eyes, and my daughter screaming, "Daddy, Daddy, no." My wife screaming, "Matt, no, don't do this to us." And I heard nothing. And then I was standing in a field with my leg was back, and there were thousands of people standing around me, all out of focus, completely blurry. And I'm like, whoa, what's going on here? And I got a strong sense. I'm giving you the abridged version. I got a strong sense to look over my right shoulder, and I look, and lo and behold, my mother and father were standing there behind me. Whew. I'm going to keep it together for this one. My dad had died from pancreatic cancer a few years before that. And my mom had died from advanced lupus, which I have as well. And they were standing behind me, and I started to bawl, and I literally ran to my mom and dad, ran to them. I had my leg, and I knew it wasn't supposed to be there, but I didn't care. And I'm hugging my mom and kissing her, and my dad never talked, but he put his left arm around, like over my shoulders. He just smiled at me. And I'm saying, how is this possible? How is this possible? I haven't seen you in so long. Oh my God, Mom, I miss you. Dad, I miss you so much. Oh my God, how am I seeing you? And she started to talk to me, and I forget a few of the things she said, but I remember it was after a minute had gone by, and she said, honey, we miss you and we love you, but you can't stay here. You have to go. And I responded, this 100% is exactly what I said. I said, bullshit, I'm not fucking going anywhere. I said, I'm staying right here with you. And I had the most immense feeling that I did not want to leave. And she just looked at me. She was just, I'm half Lebanese and half German Irish. My dad's a big 6'3" German Irish guy. My mom's was 100% Lebanese, little 4'8" tiny little lady. And she's looking up at me, and she just smiling at this look she used to give me. And she said, I love you, baby. We love you. And she touched my left cheek with her right hand, and I saw a flash. And I woke up on the operating table at Trumbull Memorial Hospital. The surgeon is a female surgeon, Dr. Mashburn, one of the most wonderful doctors you'll ever meet, was over me, and she saved my life. But I was crying, and I was blue. I found out. I saw my skin was blue because I'd lost almost 3 pints of blood. And I was shivering horribly and shaking, going into convulsions. And I was crying because I saw my mom and dad. And she thought I was crying from what was going on. And she said, we're gonna try and save you, honey. You're Stacy, my wife. She just said goodbye to you. They had just told her say goodbye. He's most likely not gonna make it. And I got put out, and I made it. And the reason I mention that now is because the feeling that I got that third round of where I was losing it, my consciousness, was almost identical to the feeling I had when that thing got to the top of the stairs and it was a few feet from me. I felt like, this is it. I'm done. And just before it pounced on me, because you saw the muscles start to ripple, the legs started to move into position there was divine intervention the same way that there was divine intervention the day that I lived through that horrible experience that I died with my family watching. And a train came by, and they go down there all the time, even now. You can go down there and look. But this train came just at that moment and did something they never did at that time, ever. We never heard them pull their whistle, ever. And this thing came through there with that thing honking super loud. They didn't let up on it till they got a certain distance away from the building. Now, I don't know if God made him do that. I don't know if he, from his point of view, being so high up, because those trains are pretty high up, he saw some of what was going on. He saw the fire we had. Maybe he thought, oh, wow, that place is on fire. Those kids are going to get it. I don't know why. But he lit that horn up, and that thing stopped. And it turned around, and it looked towards the opening in that building. And then it turned around, and it looked at me, and it did 3 times. And every time it looked at me like, should. Maybe I should. I was like, it was running through its head if it was going to do it. And the last time I looked at it, it went, and then it turned and it left. It started to run. I thought I was fast when I saw it running up. Going down, it was even faster, and some supernatural stuff happened that ended that night. Then, as it's leaving the building and running out, and it's utilizing its tail, by the way, when it was running up the stairs, it would turn. And so when it was running up the stairs, if it was turning to go up one side, flight of stairs, and it was, so it was turning to the right, it would use its tail like a lever. And you saw it go out to the left. So it was trying to use that. It was weird. It was just something that stuck out to me. I'll always remember that. So it was doing weird things. And as it's running down from the 3rd floor, it starts to lose some of its form. And what I mean by that is it by the time it got to the last set of stairs, which was at the top of the stairs of the first flight. It still had some of the characteristics of what it had before, and it had gone down on all fours, by the way, to leave the building. But it all of a sudden was like a amorphous black shadow with some characteristics of a Dogman. You kind of still saw some points at the top. Its legs were no longer touching the ground. It was like a black shadow person, but like a giant one. And then when it hit the top of those stairs, boom, gone. Like somebody taking a flashlight on a wall and whoosh, like that. That's how fast it left the building. And then I started screaming for the train, anybody. Please, God, help us, we're in here. Somebody, anybody, my buddy's doing it. Our buddies had heard the screaming in the train. They made their way down, and by the time they got to us, they just joined in the screaming for help. And we thought that the train was maybe stopping. It wasn't. It was just making, its way farther and farther away, and it chugung, 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 and all of a sudden, no noise. And we have the fear of God in us that this thing's going to come back in the building at any moment and finish off what it started. And thankfully it didn't. But it didn't change the fear of God in us from thinking it's going to come back. And we sat there for a while, and my buddy, who had been losing his stuff, was losing it badly. And he's screaming, first he's saying, we got to get out of here. First, then he's saying we don't, and then I chimed in and I said, listen, it's got to be at least like midnight or close. We have to leave. We've been here for a while. This thing's going to come back and it'll kill us. We have to leave. And then we start to leave, and my buddy starts screaming, no, we can't leave. It's going to get us. It's going to get us outside. And we're ignoring him for the most part. And then we got our way down to the last floor, and I'm like, let's just make a run. Let's make a run for it. And he's screaming, Matt, please, no, it's going to kill us. It's going to kill us. Don't leave. Please don't leave me. And I flipped out. I lost it on him. I said, listen to me. I said, we're leaving. If you want to fucking die, you can stay here by yourself. We're leaving, with or without you. No, please, man, don't leave me, please. We made him, me and my best friend, we made him hang on to our shirts. He was choking us. And we made our way out of the building, dragging him, basically. And there was, I'll never forget, one of the last scary things leaving that hellhole was where we would hop up to come into the building. You could look under the concrete, and it would go way back. So I'm like thinking, man, oh shit, I hope this thing isn't in there, like underneath, waiting for us. Because it just disappeared. And we jump down, I immediately look, and there's nothing there. So we start this nightmare trek back to my buddy's house. Every noise we heard, we thought it was that thing. And we're running, and we get to the last leg of this area we have to get out of. And the way we would enter is we would go down a huge, massive, mountainous hill of just gravel. And it was easy going down. You kind of just turn sideways and just walk your way down. Well, leaving was not that easy. And it would always we'd lose our footing. We'd make fun of each other. We'd laugh, and it was exhausting. And we weren't laughing that day. We helped each other get to the top. And just as we're getting to the top, you hear the dogs in the near distance. We were horrified. Thank God they didn't make their way to us. We just thought that was signifying, it's here, it's here. Is it here? Is it here? Do you see it? Where are the eyes? We made our way back to my buddy's house who lived across the street, and we were exhausted, soaking. I was soaking wet. I remember grabbing his hose. I always say this part too because it was a big deal to me. I was so thirsty. And we got this hose. I drank that thing till my stomach felt like it was going to bust. And then we just sat on his porch staring at, you could just see the top portions of the the pipes coming out on the blast furnace, and we just sat there like not talking. We made our way back finally to my buddy's house, his parents' house, and it was after midnight. And he went postal on us. Where have you guys been? The mother came. She was freaking out. Where have you been? What's going on? And my buddy immediately told his dad, where we were and what was going. It almost got us. And he's like, "Wait a minute, you what? You were where? Are you kidding me?" Later, we would find out he was aware of this thing. He worked for the city. I'm not going to out him, but he was in a position of power. And it doesn't take much to imagine what he was and what position he held. And he had called my dad, and I had another fear in me at that moment of dad coming. And he got there and just walked in, and he looked at me, and first you could tell the look was of a parent, like making sure I was okay. And then it was, where the hell were you? What is going on? And his dad actually called my dad into the other room, and you could hear, my dad scream, "What the hell are you talking? What? Are you joking? What the hell are you talking about? What?" And back and forth, and this, and then finally he got quiet, and he came in, and he looked scared when he came back to me, and he looked nervous, and he said, "Let's go." And we left, and I am bawling in the car. "Please believe me, Dad, that's what happened," or whatever. He's looking at me, and he stops when we pull in the driveway, and he said, "Do not say anything to your mother. Do not say anything to your brother," my younger brother. He's like, he's afraid of thunderstorms. "Don't tell him about that." And the first thing I do when I go in the house, I see my mother, and I tell my mother what we saw. I was a kid. And she looks at my dad, "Ken, what is he talking? Betty, go to bed." Her name was Elizabeth. "Betty, go to bed. I got it. They saw a bear. They're fine. Go to bed." And it was 3 weeks before we ever saw my one buddy who went postal. His mom and dad thought that we all were doing hallucinogens of some type, and that he had a horrible trip and had brain damage from it, which of course he didn't. My best friend finally got his dad cornered and said, "Dad, please talk to me about this. This is what happened. This blah, blah." Long story short, my buddy called us later that day, or it was the day after. I can't remember the time frame. It was very soon. Told us, I talked to my dad about what happened to us, and they're aware. He knew about it. He knew about it. That's why he went off on us. That's why he didn't want us down there. And he told him that the police had gotten calls about some strange type of something down there from security that works those tracks, which, by the way, I have numerous messages I've received since coming out with my experience from people that work down at the train tracks, telling me we'd see things. "Matt, you're not crazy. We saw some weird things." There'd be something that would be walking along with us in the woods. We'd see weird color lights in there. We'd hear strange howls or growls. And then I also got contacted by a Youngstown police officer who I'm still trying to get to at least do the blurry discussion. And I might have him because I'm making finally a movie / documentary with Brett Eichenberger and Joe Snyder, who are the people that directed the Flash of Beauty series. So they're going to be making a documentary with me in the next couple of years. I think next year we're starting, if not sooner. It was something that I couldn't deal with. I couldn't deal with the fact that my dad had made me to promise not to talk about it with anybody. and they didn't want us telling our classmates. He and his dad said, you go and you tell your classmates about it. Everybody wants to see this thing. And then you go, you have all these number of people that aren't you guys, that aren't used to trekking through those dangerous areas. And then you have a group of, a group of girls giggling about a boy they like. And then next thing you know, they fall through the floor or something like that. So they put the fear in God in us in different ways about not talking about it. The hardest part for me was not talking about it with, sorry, my mouth is getting dry, and I'm going to clip this piece from that live stream. I have to drink a little bit, I'm sorry. But I went to my old church, or my church, which is St. Maron's. It's a Maronite Rite Catholic church, which is like Lebanon. It's just mostly Lebanese people. It's a Catholic church. And I went to see my priest, Father Ashkar, who is no longer with us. And I had trouble dealing with this. I just didn't know how to deal with it anymore, and asked my mom and dad if they would take me to talk to Father Ashkar, who wasn't the nicest priest in the world either. So I was scary. He was a big, tall guy with a goatee and everything. He looked like he could actually get into like war scenarios and be a badass. And I went to see him, and he did not judge me. He did not tell me he didn't believe me. He was very welcoming, and he told me, when I told him what happened, he said, I believe you, and I believe you, Matthew. I believe you because I have seen so many strange things myself. He mentioned the Catholic Church and people being possessed, how real that is. And he said to me this, which I'll never let go. He said, Matt, you have to understand, and people need to understand, that there are things out there that bleed through. They bleed through, he didn't say the veil, they bleed through, our reality, and they end up either showing themselves to us, hurting people, or never being seen. And he said, I've seen some very, very strange and scary things. And he said, I believe you 100%. And that was very special to me. That helped. And it makes you, again, freaked out a little bit, you know what I mean? So I believe, as far as I can think, that's basically what happened. And if you guys have any questions, please.
Say against that wall, how tall was it?
We went back when we were older, heavily armed. We went back to the building. And I forgot to mention this. I'm glad you bring that up. So on that first floor, they had pillars, 4 pillars at certain corners, at almost a corner, that were to keep the building, up. And these things were gigantic. I would say that we measured as well as we could. They were roughly about 5 feet wide, so around. And then each floor, the ceiling was about 18 feet high. I believe it was like 18 to 20 feet high. So we figured out that these things, roughly, from what we saw, and we were able to, extrapolate from our memories, 4 of us. It had stood in front of one of these, by the way, and it was probably, if I remember right, at the tip of the ears, somewhere around like 12 feet would be how tall this thing was. I mean, that's what we figured out. So, and that's the tip of the ears. I would say the head itself, 10 feet maybe. The ears were huge. And again, you got to also give, some room for mistake there as well. But there's no way, in any way, shape, or form, that this thing was under 10 feet tall. It was not 9 feet. It was at least 10 for sure.
Standing on 2 feet or 4.
That's when it's standing on 2.
Did it
Yeah.
have a long snout?
It did have a long snout. Yeah. Very large teeth, shiny. It was like I said, almost groomed. Very, very clean. I don't know if it licked itself and kept itself clean, or wherever it comes from, or being supernatural. It just doesn't get dirty like other things. I don't know.
You think it's possible, because of the glowing eyes, it almost seems like as if it's possibly mechanical inside. Do you think there's a possibility that this creature could be interdimensional?
Oh, 100%. And that's my belief. My belief, I actually go on location these days. I've started to go certain places. We went to Cuyahoga State Park up in the Cleveland area, and we had one hell of an experience at a 1800s cemetery that's at the top of this one area. Holy hell, I'm going to tell you what. And I'll be releasing my video on that. But my buddy David Wolf from ETS Exposing the Strange, who is my partner when we go on location, has a video already up. So check out his video too. I'd appreciate it. His channel. It's called ETS Exposing the Strange. His name is David Wolf, WOFOLF. And he has the video up already. We saw unbelievable things that night. But in regards to the Dogman that at least I saw with my buddies, there is no doubt whatsoever that this thing is supernatural. It couldn't have these abilities that it had. And it was the same summer that Predator came out at the movies, and we saw after. And I'll never forget. It was not just the four of us. It was like, I think we're like 8 or 9 of us, and my best friend's brother was there too. He had driven us, and we started screaming, "Oh my God, that's what that arm did. It looks exactly what its arm did." Like swearing. I mean, we almost got kicked out. But we were just in awe. We were like, oh my God, that's what we saw. And this thing, I look back to, I forget the original story, but it goes I think it's the oldest hellhound supernatural type of story ever told, and it is in, I can't remember, I think it's either in England or I'll look it up for you guys. But basically the story, it's true that at a church, Catholic church there, they were having mass. A little boy was looking out the stained glass windows, and he started to witness something abnormal, supernatural. A giant black hellhound was coming towards it was storming. And this is a true story. You guys can look it up. It came into the church. It forced its way in. They still have the original door at this church that has burn marks with a slash in it. This thing came into the church. 2 of the men died from heart attacks when it went past their pew. And then I think it killed the priest. I can't remember exactly. I'll find out for you after we talk here, and I'll get the information. I'll also put a link to that story on this video for the live stream so you guys can look at it as well.
Can you give me that ETS?
Exposing the Strange, David Wolf. And him and I have been friends for about 4 years now. We've been doing more and more on the ground investigations. In fact, myself, David, a good friend of mine, and our resident sensitive, BJ Lapierre. She has a YouTube channel. It is author and illustrator BJ Lapierre, I believe that's the one. Could you guys who are watching on the live stream, BJ, if I got it wrong, I apologize. Could you put it in the chat, the exact links for everything? I love you guys. I'll make sure the links are in the chat, the replay. Then also, if you guys, I don't know if you guys know the channel with Carol Ann. You guys know what channel I'm talking about? You have Carol Ann from, oh my God, I just had a mind fart. Hold on a second. This is getting cut. Nobody yell at me. from the In-Between. I'm sorry, Carolyn. Anybody ever watch the In-Between? You're missing out. You go check that one out. And the reason I'm telling you is because we put a group together and we went down to Hellier, Kentucky just a few months ago, and we had a massive investigation down there. If you aren't aware of what makes Hellier, Kentucky popular in supernatural areas, look it up. Just put Google and say Hellier, Kentucky, Hellier, and you can go to my channel. There's a video from us being down there. I'd appreciate you guys subscribe and hit the bell and like all the videos. You can get an idea of what we did down there from mine, and then also from their channels. And it was a huge investigation. We really had some wild stuff happen. We got proof of some crazy things. And one thing we will never do, I will never do, is lie or embellish or make something seem like it's happening. What good does that do anybody? Nothing. Not you lie. What good did you all? It does nothing. This stuff's real. It's really happening. This stuff happens out there. Why should we waste our time lying about it? Yes, ma'am. I'll get back to you.
When you spoke at the meeting at Youngstown,
Yes.
you said that I can't remember if you said you had a dream or another experience with that creature that was pretty terrifying, and I was hoping you could share that with us.
Yeah, sure. I've had a lot of people ask if I've ever seen this thing before again. And I have, but not in a traditional sense. I had what I call a dreamscape dream, and I was told this moniker for it from somebody else. And basically, in a nutshell, if you've ever heard of somebody having such a real dream that they're like in the astral plane, if you've ever heard of people discuss that. Well, I was asleep and I started to have a dream, which I wasn't aware I was sleeping because I thought it was legit happening. You know, when you dream and you think you're at home, but your home is never your home. It's always some other place. But in the dream, you're like, well, I'm home. I was at home. It was my yard, everything exact. And I was hearing things out back. I have it fenced in. We've got woods behind the house. And I went back to the chain link fence and I was attacked by something. I had the wind knocked out and I was thrown on the ground. My prosthetic was ripped off of my leg. And I noticed that what it was when that happened, because it used its teeth to throw my prosthetic. It was the thing that I had seen when I was 14. And it had been the first time I've ever seen it since. And it crawled up on me and I smelled it. I smelled like farm animal. It dripped saliva in my mouth. I tasted disgusting, salty slime. Legit. So I thought, again, this was happening. Like, for real, it was happening. And it crawled up onto me and it put its forehead almost touching mine, so close that I almost felt like an energy between us. And it spoke to me, but it never moved its mouth. I learned of something called mind speak years ago, where beings or humans that have, that are psychic or other sensitivities can speak to people mind to mind and not move their mouths. Well, this thing did that to me, and it said, you speak of me too much. And it said, you speak of me too much. I will see you again soon, something like that. And one of the experiences I had at Hellier, Kentucky, there is an incredible video where I caught proof of a Dogman watching us. So check out my channel. It's there. The picture's there. Give me your opinion in the comments. There's 2 videos for Hellier, and that one is pretty wild. And it told me it would see me again, and I woke up, and I was sitting in my chair soaking wet, and my dog Hadley was sitting at my legs where she had her paws up on my knees, and it was like, it was during the witching hours between 3 and 4, which is interesting. And she was whining. She's never up at that time. She never does things like that. And she knew something was going on. Animals have a sixth sense. And That was really nuts. And that's the number one reason why I'm always paranoid at night and I always have my gun at the ready because of that experience. It was as real as we're sitting here with each other. I'll never forget it. And I had actually, stopped talking about that, but yeah, I'm happy to divulge anything you guys like. Yes, sir.
I was the first one to hear your interview on Red Pill 78 with Zach Payne. And I called everybody. I've listened to that 2-hour thing. I've listened to it twice now. I could tell you were being truthful.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
That means a lot to me.
Yeah. I was like, holy crap. Because we have so many dead steel mills around here. We have very few left. Is that Jeanette furnace there? Is that still there? Or is that all gone?
No, they tore it down. Like I was saying on YouTube, there's actually a video of them tearing it down. So you could put the Jeanette blast furnace in the search for YouTube. It's spelled, I think, JeanNett or something.
That's it?
Yeah, there's a video of it in there of them tearing it down.
Yeah.
I think this thing, number one, came in and out of portals. You watch the docu-series and the series about Skinwalker Ranch. They talk about portals opening all the time there. So anybody that's like, yeah, I don't believe in that, well, they have film of these things opening.
Just past Friday, I want everybody to listen to this. I am right up by Rick Fellner's rust proofing, and I hear a military helicopter coming in. And it's just a common one, drab green. Side doors are open, and I'm watching it, and you can hear that pressure, from the blades going. And I'm watching it, and it's right coming up on 356, and there was a flash that come out of the sun was behind it. So I don't know if it hit the glass, whatever. And I'm watching it, and now it's going west, and it starts climbing, and it's getting louder, and it gets up, and all of a sudden it just lightened, turned toward me. I'm looking at the pilot and the co-pilot, and it vanished.
The helicopter vanished.
The helicopter vanished, and the sound went. And I just stood there like, okay, what just happened? And that's on a beautiful day. There was sunshine everywhere, and I could see it through the trees. It was less than 100 yards from me.
Well, did you notice anything that looked kind of like oil or like shiny oil maybe around?
No, this was clear as a bell.
Well, the reason I asked that is because Brett Eichenberger and his wife Jill Remensnyder, who are making my documentary, they went out and interviewed Ron. Ron. Help me out, guys. The Sasquatch Experiencer. Ron. Hold on. I have it on my phone. I'm sorry, Ron. Don't be mad at me. He's the one that has the camp out in that area. DJ, I'm looking at our speaking here, and you guys give me his name real quick. Or you have to understand my mods when I'm on a live stream. They are awesome. I forget something, bang, it's there. Let's see. I want to give you his correct name. He's made many docu-series and whatnot. I don't want to not give him credit for mentioning his name. I apologize, guys. Where are you at, Ron? Ron Moorhead. You don't know who Ron Moorhead is? He is the OG. When I went to Beaver Creek State Park, on my channel, if you go, the second video after my experience is a video about me going to Beaver Creek State Park in Ohio. It's in the East Liverpool area. And I caught a legit EVP of a grunting Bigfoot. And I have Ron Moorhead stamping his opinion down on it. It was legit. I had a crazy experience. I went there for a conference, and I had some really wild things happen. I'd appreciate it if you check out the video and like it. You'll be blown away by the EVP I got. But Ron took them out. If you know his experience, if you don't, look it up. He has historic recordings of Sasquatch and Bigfoot that surrounded his campsite out in the California. It's in the Northwest, and it takes them like hours upon hours to get to this area. And he took Jill and Brett out there because they are finishing up a documentary about him, and they both said at different times when they were going there, Brett saw a portal he believes opening, and his wife noticed when they were leaving one opening, and they both said there were similarities that look like almost like when you see in the sun oil that's mixed with water, it makes that rainbowy kind of weird color. And you know, you hear about David Paulides and the missing 411 and about all these weird things that happen, portals opening, people walking through them and never being seen again, or being found X amount of time later on the top of a mountain miles away, clothes folded up next to them, all kinds of weird stuff. Well, some of the things you've heard people that have made is like they had a feeling like they wanted to go walk through it, you know. They both said we both wanted to walk through that thing we saw, and that, you know, it's scary. But Skinwalker Ranch, obviously one of the most popular. There's a place actually right next to it called. It's a bed and breakfast. It's like Strawberry something. It was in an episode of something, and they have crazy stuff happen there. And the one guy who owns it is friends with Jack. He has the Portals from Hell, Jack Osborne, and he went there to help his friend because they were freaking out. They had workers there that refused to work on the place anymore. They'd seen like beings watching them and aliens, and the one guy that owns it said one day he was on his horse and he saw, for all intents and purposes, a red-haired giant creature on two legs, be it either a Sasquatch. He kind of was leaning towards Dogman, and he said, I don't know what that is or where it came from, but I'm going to find out what it is up close. And he tore off after this thing with his horse and couldn't keep up with it. Never got to get to it, which is freaky as hell too. So yeah, it's look it up. If you Google that, you can actually rent a room at this place, and it's very close to Skinwalker Ranch, and they have just as many things happen there as they do. So I actually want to go there. And it's
Only if
wonderful.
they keep Dan, if Dan goes.
I'll go.
Yeah, as long
You and
as he
me.
stays out there, we'll be fine.
I won't leave you because you might be my way of getting home too.
One of the things that I noticed when you were talking about the Dogman salivating a lot whenever, that made me think of my neighbor's has a lab,
Yes.
and we have a Yorkie,
Mhm.
and every time the Yorkie
So do
would go
we.
over, he would just smell and went up, but he salivated a lot,
Mhm.
and I found out is that the salivation helps the smell.
Oh,
I
okay.
didn't know that.
So that may have been a reason why he was really salivating and then putting his nose up.
Makes
You were on the menu.
Oh, I definitely got that impression for sure.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. Thank you.
Yeah. And I never knew that, you
Yeah.
know, until my
Me
dog was
either.
soaking wet from the
What,
salivation.
do you have a Yorkie poo or what?
No, it was a straight Yorkie.
We have a Yorkie poo. That's
Okay.
our Hadley. She's awesome. Yeah, I never thought of that. That's really wild. Does anybody else have any more questions?
I just want to add on to my story.
Yes, sir.
It's 20 minutes later, there goes the helicopter down through.
Oh, really?
And I was on the phone, I was talking to Cindy. I'm going, I don't know what just happened here.
You gotta quit taking them drugs, though.
Well, yeah, probably took too many.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
3 helicopters.
Could you please say the name of your YouTube channel?
Yes, it's Planet 412. For the Gmail address, you spell it out. It's Planet PlanetFourtwe lve@gmail.com. But if you go into the search of YouTube, I'm big enough now, thankfully, that you just put in planet, spell it out, the next, put a space, 412, and my channel will pop up. Thank you.
The cards that you have there that you're handing out, by chance is your email on that card?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
So for those of you that are interested, grab one of his cards and you'll have
Please.
his email address.
And anybody that has had experiences, anybody that's watching on the live stream, if you've had experiences, more than likely my links will be put up there. Maybe not, because this isn't a regular live stream. So BJ and girls, Josie, Kel, you don't have to work it like normal. There may be links up there in the chat.
So I'm guessing you left the fire still burning real tall.
Oh, yeah.
Out of there.
Yeah.
And I'm also guessing you didn't go back there as kids anymore.
No.
Right?
No, we did not.
Did you think to pick up your guns and run?
We had them on us, actually. Yeah, they were just small. They were handguns, very little. I remember finding the 38 that was actually tied to me in a certain kind of way. And I didn't even know I had it till I had gotten home, and I sat down on the couch and I was like, oh crap. And like, my dad's like 5 feet from me and I've got this in my sweatpants. Yeah, no, I didn't even, but the fire, just to address that, this building was made of just heavy steel and concrete and rebar. There was nothing to burn. So we always knew it would go out. Yeah. Anybody else? Well, guys, I want to thank you for coming and allowing me to share my experience with you. It's never easy for me to do that. And I want to tell you how much I appreciate you guys just at least giving me the respect to listen and tell my experience. So have a great night, everybody. Thank you.
Excellent presentation.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you for coming.
And thank you to everybody on the live stream, to my ladies and everybody. You guys, thank you. I'm going to say goodbye to everybody here. Bye, everybody.
If
I'm going to trip over
anybody,
these wires.
There's some pizza, some breadsticks left back here. I really don't want to have to tote any of it home, so if you guys want to eat it,
Thank
by
you
all
for coming,
means,
everybody.
please.
I appreciate you. I will see you Saturday night. Thank you.
For you, anything, Joe. All right.